creator of Silently Surviving Souls. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression in 2012 while I was serving an LDS mission. I came home after serving for 11 months because it became more than I could handle as a missionary. And when I came home, I felt a little bit alone and alienated because I came home earlier than planned. But one thing that really helped me was being able to relate to others who had also come home early or who also had a mental illness. I felt solace and comfort in knowing that I wasn't alone. So I decided to start this blog where I would share stories about mental illness, and later I started sharing stories about infertility, loss, divorce, interfaith marriage, and addiction. I share these stories for multiple reasons, some of them being that we are all silently surviving through something, and I prefer to use the word surviving instead of suffering or struggling because we are sometimes literally trying to just survive through our trials. And survival mode is real when you suffer from a mental illness or when you're going through a divorce or when you had to bury a child. I want others to know that they're not alone in their trials. Yes, our challenges and struggles are unique to us and are given to us specifically, but there are aspects which others who are going through something similar can relate to. And it is nice to find those people that you share those commonalities with and gain strength from them. I want others to know that it's okay to struggle and to have a hard time. Sometimes I get this vibe that if you're not happy all the time, then you are doing something wrong. And I don't think that's the case. You literally cannot always choose to be happy. Our trials can be downright hard, and instead of acting like we have it all together or that our lives are perfect, we should take them for what they are and feel what they make us feel, while also learning from them and trying to do and be better because of what they put us through. The things that I'm going to share with you today are based on my personal experiences and from talking with others who also struggle with this. I'm not a counselor or a therapist, but I would highly recommend one if you can't seem to do this on your own anymore. They will be able to give you more specific help and focus on what you need individually or as a couple if you decide to go together. I want to do a little exercise before we get started. I want you to imagine that you were walking on a tightrope. It's a beautiful day and the skies are blue and clear. You're walking along and you start to feel a little breeze, but it's nothing that you can't handle. You keep putting one foot in front of the other and keeping your balance, and you're doing great. But that little breeze starts into a powerful gust of wind and you are now struggling to keep moving forward, but you have still managed to keep balance and stay on the rope until the rain starts coming down. The rain causes the rope to become slippery, and even though you're trying as hard as you can to stay on that rope, you slip and fall off. Thankfully though, you don't fall very far because there's a safety net below you that catches you. Imagine the relief that you feel knowing this stopped you from falling further, and because this net is there, it allowed you to get back on your rope after the storm has passed and keep going. Walking on that tightrope is what it feels like to have depression. It's a never-ending balancing act, and you can be walking along just fine until outside forces that you cannot control, cause you to fall off. Sometimes it takes a full-on storm to knock you off, and sometimes it just takes a little breeze that causes you to lose your focus and fall off. If the safety net is there, you can get back on that rope, and that safety net should be your spouse. They should be there for you when you fall off, and they should be helping you get back on that rope. So now imagine that you fall off that tightrope and that safety net is not there. You fall farther, there's the potential of being injured, and it's a lot more difficult to get back on that rope. Depression can be an awful, downward, never-ending spiral if you don't bounce back from what made you fall off. That is exactly why I had to come home from my mission, because I had been injured from falling off my rope and I couldn't get back on it by myself. I hope that this helps you see why the safety net is so vital. In order for your spouse to be able to be that safety net, you will need to communicate with them about your illness. I know this is always easy because it can be a hard thing to talk about, but this is your spouse, someone that you chose to live your life with and that hopefully loves you unconditionally through all of the ups and downs. I have had the hot thoughts of not wanting to burden my husband by telling him I'm having a hard time, but when he is aware of what is going on, we're much better off. So please tell them when you are having a hard day, but don't just stop there. Tell them why you are having a hard day if you know the reason why. Sometimes there isn't a specific reason and you can't pinpoint why you feel depressed, but then tell them that. Tell them why you don't know you're feeling depressed and you need them to help you through it. Sharing what you're experiencing as best as you can will help them help you. And if you know what you need to feel better, then definitely share that with them. I know there are some days that I feel like I can totally work through my crap on my own, and so I just let my husband know that I'm struggling a little bit. but that I got this and I can work through it. And the reason I let him know, even though I'm doing okay, is so that he knows why I maybe haven't accomplished much that day, or if I'm acting a little off or different. It kind of gives him a heads up. And if you're unsure of what may help, then do a little bit of trial and error. Ask your spouse for a hug, to give you a massage or rub your back, or to cuddle with you while you watch a movie or show together. Ask them to pick your favorite treat up from the store. Ask them to help with the kids or to do a chore that you may not have gotten around to that day. Ask them to tell you what they love about you or things that you're good at. See what works for you, and if something did or didn't work, then let them know. Always be communicating and express what is or isn't working. Be true in your communication, and what I mean by that is don't tell your spouse that you can handle your depression on your own if you really can't. It'll only set you both up for failure. Because if you tell them that you got it and then you really don't, you will both get frustrated, and you'll get frustrated that they aren't helping, and they'll get frustrated that they said you could do it and then you can't. Maybe this is obvious, but I have made this mistake before and want to prevent others from doing the same. Err on the side of caution. If you're unsure, then tell them you're handling things right now, but you may need them to jump in and help out at some point. Then there's no surprises and it'll limit the frustration. Always thank your spouse for helping you. I know sometimes our spouses blame themselves for our depression, but it isn't their fault and they need to know that. I'm talking to you, husband or wife of someone who is depressed. Don't blame yourself. Please, don't blame yourself for their illness. It's not going to go away if you do X, Y, or Z. So please try to accept that and know that you're helping your husband or wife in more ways than you know you are. It's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just part of life, and it's something that you both are going to have to learn how to live with. So let them know that they helped you and that you appreciate them. I know that it makes my husband feel good when he helps me overcome my depression, and he feels better about his abilities to help me the next time I'm having a hard time. Realize that works one day may not work the next, which is super frustrating, but remember that it's frustrating for both of you. I get frustrated when I'm depressed and I know I have no reason to be, or when hard days just come out of nowhere. I'll be having a good week and one day I'll wake up feeling that depression creep back in. And my husband gets frustrated when he doesn't know how to help me, or when I don't give him any warning that I'm struggling and expect him to help me on the spot. We both get frustrated for different reasons. But be patient with each other and with yourself, especially if this is something new. And there will be times when both of you are burnt out and exhausted from being parents or having jobs, having kids, serving in church callings, whatever it may be. And my suggestion for that would be to take turns letting each other escape. Figure out which one of you can maybe endure for a little bit longer while the other goes for a run or goes to the store or goes outside to read a book, and then trade and let the other one do what they need to escape for a little bit. Provide a rest for each other, and hopefully that gives you the recharge that you need to keep going. My husband and I have almost been married for 5 years and we're still learning how to handle this. But one of the reasons I did end up marrying my husband was because he didn't try to fix me. We started dating only 2 months after I came home, and he asked me on our first date why I came home. I had hardly talked about it because it was still new and I was still trying to process it all and work through it, but I felt surprisingly comfortable telling him, and after I did, he just accepted it, and he accepted me. He didn't try to pinpoint my depression on something or turn me into a project, and he continued to date me. I don't think he entirely knew what he was getting himself into, but who really does? I married him because he accepted me, all of me, and that was a really big deal. You can't always fix your depression. I've been living with mine for 6 years now, and sometimes there are short-term solutions, but there may not be a long-term one. So take things as they come. I know that it's cliche, but it is easier to look at this illness a day at a time than to look at it and be overwhelmed by what it could be like in the future. As I previously mentioned, depression is no one's fault. It is a disorder, which is a type of illness and needs to be treated as such. With that being said, depression and love can coexist. And what I mean by that is, you can be depressed and still feel love. It is not one or the other. I feel like that concept is hard to grasp because we all think that if you're depressed, then there must be something wrong. But that's not always the case, as anyone with depression can tell you. So give your spouse all the love. Be there for them no matter what. Show up when they need you. Sometimes it's going to be a sacrifice, but that's what makes a marriage stronger, when you have to sacrifice for one another and put the other's needs before your own. Depression is a hard thing to navigate in marriage, but it is possible. And if that love is there, then you can get through anything together. Having depression has also given me opportunities to be more empathetic with others. Try to see having a spouse with depression or going through it yourself as a learning opportunity that could help you help other family members, your kids, friends, coworkers, or whoever else you may run into. My husband will be applying for medical school this summer, and I hope that having a wife with depression will help him in his career when he encounters others who also struggle with it. Learn from this struggle and experience and try to turn it into something that will benefit your lives. The last thing that I want to say is take time to do things that you enjoy and that make you happy. I know what it's like to lose yourself in depression, and it's important to keep your identity and feel like you have some control over your life. I understand it can be hard to enjoy things while living with depression, but I promise it helps to have something in your sights that you are working towards that keeps you motivated to move forward. For example, while I was on my mission, my depression was severe, but every PD we would play soccer, and when I play soccer, I feel like myself again. When I'm on the field, I don't have to think about anything but the game, and I can just be me. And now I play indoor soccer once a week, and it's my time to do something that I love, and I can escape for a little bit from the things that are weighing me down. Do fun things with your spouse as well. My husband and I try to go on a date at least once a month, and it's good for us to have that alone time together too. Have things to look forward to that keep you wanting to put one foot in front of the other on that tightrope. I told my husband that I was doing this, and I asked him if he would write down some advice that he would have, and so he did, so I'm just going to read it to you. Being married to someone with depression or anxiety can be tough, but being married in general can be tough. I don't know what it's like to be married to someone who doesn't have depression, but from what I gather in talking to others is simply that a marriage with depression in it is just a little bit more tough, a little bit more often. I don't have being a spouse of someone with depression figured out, far from it on most days. I think that one thing that helps a lot is resisting the urge to argue or show your spouse what is right on a day that they are struggling. Sometimes you just have to swallow your opinions because they're going to be met with a brick wall and a guilt trip if you pick the wrong time to express them. But again, that is something that almost anyone who has been married a long time will tell you. It's just a little stronger wall and a guilt trip, and a little bit more often when your spouse has depression. The other thing that helps being a spouse to someone with depression is reminding yourself frequently if needed that your spouse is more than his or her depression. Quite frankly, as you probably know, some days are just miserable. Maybe even a lot of days are just miserable, but not every day is miserable. Depending on how well your spouse copes with his or her depression, some or most days are just as peachy as they are for anyone who isn't in a depressive relationship. The beauty or curse is having no idea what each day will bring. Today might be a good day or it might be a miserable day. It's your job to be optimistic, even to hope every day that today is a good day. That brings me to the marriage advice I give every new couple regardless of their mental health status. Jesus taught it to have faith like a little child. Consider any 2 to 7-year-olds you know. What is their demeanor like when they wake up in the morning? Are they downtrodden because they couldn't stay up late last night or didn't get something they wanted at the store? No, they're full of life and ready for what today has to offer. It takes that kind of faith to be the spouse of someone with depression, or a spouse in general. Treat each day as a new opportunity regardless of what happened yesterday or last week. It's your opportunity to have a good day and to help your spouse have a good day. If it doesn't happen and today turns out miserable, then wake up tomorrow with the same zeal to make it a good day. I found that practice to lead to more good and positive days for both Ally and me than any other approach I've tried. Sorry, I should have read that not for the first time doing this. I think my husband makes a very good point in trying to just be the best you and focus on yourself and what you can do to make the day the best and make the day good for your spouse. I hope something that I shared with you today was beneficial and that will help you in your marriage. I wish I had the cure-all for depression because I would love not to have it, and I wish I had all the answers that you're searching for, but just because I don't doesn't mean that there isn't someone who does. Turn to God and He will help you in more ways than you can imagine. And know that I'm rooting for you and for your success, and I wish you all the best in your marriage.